And we're back. Welcome to another episode of Homeownership Heroes. I'm your host, Brian Burjans.
I'm Rick Betancourt.
And today we got our special guest host, John Bell. John, thanks for joining us again.
Brian, good to be back on. Rick, always great to see you. Man, that music just really gets you ready, right?
It does. And Rick, we're going to have to get a new picture because you don't look anything like that anymore. So I think when we go live, people are like, man, I don't feel like that's actually him. So we're going to have to.
I'm just as handsome now as I was back then. It's okay. Just
You've aged significantly since we've got that photo. So we're going to have to change it. All right, guys. Well, we got a jam-packed show. Obviously, our pregame brought up a lot of topics. So I say we just dive right in. John, to table set this, why don't we give kind of the state of the union of where VA is at today from a production perspective, how you guys are tracking this year compared to last year?
Yeah, we are up in pretty much every category, which is great. Certainly a wonderful job with, by all of our lending community. Thank you, veterans, for believing in us and utilizing your benefit the way it was intended to be used. We're up about 6% in purchase activity. We're up about 30% in cash out. We're way up again, and we're still up in IRL volume. So we've already we've already exceeded our expectation for the year, and continue to it continues to climb. So exciting stuff around that, and you're making it hard on us on keeping up, but I do think that we're keeping up and continuing to grow. So thank you.
So John, you obviously talk to a lot of industry professionals all the time. What would you, in your humble professional opinion, what would you say that, VA, because for the last decade, it feels like every year, 20 and 21 are kind of anomalies, like let's just call that a fact. But year over year, it seems like VA has always been tracking at a plus. And, I always tell people it's like an airplane taking off from an airport. What do you think has contributed to the success of the program, but, over the years?
So, first is just our ability as an industry to realize that independent mortgage bankers, like this business and can make money in this business. And second to that is, how do we make the VA loan not only as fast as comparable to other products, but also how do we make it make sense to our veteran community, our realtor community? And I do think that we've been able to do that. When there's a problem that comes up, we've been able to meet that problem head on and change focus and be able to improve, whether or not it's eligibility from 22 days to now 99% of the time within 3 days, whether or not it is from an appraisal standpoint, where it was taking us 16 business days to deliver value, and now we're delivering it in 7 days. Condo approvals, instead of it taking 30 days to issue condo approvals, we're now issuing them, in less than a week. So it is, I think it's those type of things that we continue to listen to the industry we changed the way we do business, and moving into a more data-centric environment is allowing us to really focus in on training, consistency, communication across the board. And I think if VA continues to do that, then they'll continue to to be what it's supposed to be for veterans.
I'll tell you that in the last 18 months is the first time I would say in my 22 years of doing this, I've actually seen the needle move a little bit. And I've seen a lot of the new realtor interactions that I'm having, very pro VA, excited on VA offers, willing to work harder on writing those contracts to ensure that our service members get it, supporting the VA benefit itself, understanding the minimum property requirements. And the last piece I'd add is that the condos, as I've talked about before, is a big part of my business in New England. And my fastest condo turnaround was like 24 hours. So we're averaging about 4 to 5 business days, which is about a week. So your team is just killing it, John. And that is certainly helping the realtor community. And we love them all, and they have a job to do. I understand that. But I think for a long time, they weren't really understanding how amazing this was. And some things had to change, right? Which they obviously have for the better. And we're seeing a lot of positive conversations. So, but it's all largely in part you and your team have just been crushing it the last 6 years.
So the condo approval process. So I want to hit on this real quick. So back in the day, it used to be it would take quite a significant amount of time, and I don't know the mechanics behind it. I always heard that it went out to outside legal, all this kind of like like a process. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, obviously. But how did you guys get it down to such a quick turn time now? Why is it so efficient?
Yeah, it's tracking. It is, it's about being able to monitor the approval process in each stage. And then as you're looking at each stage, determining, what benchmarks you want to set for those stages and where you can improve. And we've done that time and time again. We started with eligibility, went to funding fee, then we went to appraisal, and then now we did the same thing with condo. And now you see us doing it with ServiceNow and and servicing. So I think doing the same thing over and over and over again, and looking at where your process improvement should be allocated is extremely important. And I think that our team certainly has been able to make some milestones in that process. I just remember, and y'all have heard me tell the story over and over again, but I just remember coming in, and the first thing I asked when I came in 2010 was, "Hey, what's VA's market share?" And some leaders at the time said, "Don't ever ask that again." And that's not our job to determine how much market share we are. And one reason to that is we're less than 1% market share. We would go to MBA meetings, and MBA wouldn't even have a chair for us at the table. Like we'd be able to sit at the back of the room and maybe ask a question, once in a day, instead of being at the table asking questions that we need to ask for veterans to make sure that they're protected and they're part of the process. So now we're more than 13% market share, and we continue to grow, and it's on the backs of those people that are listening to this call now. To you all, to our team, and to realtors, to Jenny, to a lot of different, people and collaboration and making it the best program that we can make it.
That's crazy that you went from 1% to 13%. And what's even crazier about that stat is that it can go up even higher because the utilization rate is still significantly lower than it should be with VA, which is great. That just means that there's, the ceiling is super high on this thing. But I want to go back real quick because I know you guys are really excited about the Realtor Toolkit, but I wanted to talk about something. Um, Rick, you mentioned the realtors are getting a little bit more excited
Correct.
about VA. John, I know you obviously speak with NAR and speak with realtors quite often. Are you noticing from your seat that the real estate community is starting to open its mind up a little bit more around VA? Because it used to be, part of the challenge that we faced as an industry was kind of that old misinformation, passed down stuff about the big bad VA loan and realtors not accepting, VA
Yep.
contracts. Have you noticed a change in sentiment on that as well?
Rick, you want to go first?
I mean, I can just tell you from in the trenches as an originator, before it was a struggle. Now, I mean, we still have to work hard, but I'll do a presentation in front of a realtor group. And instead of having, 40 agents in a class and 30 of them can't stand VA because of information that was passed down that hasn't evolved, to now it's mostly the majority of them in there love it. You still have a few outliers that still think that, they have the ability to look at a simple offer and make an educated decision as to which is the better offer simply based on size of a deposit. And then you provide an example of all of the benefits with VA. I just think that I think if you asked a lot of mortgage professionals, I think if you asked a lot the same question, are you seeing a positive needle swing? I think you'll be surprised to see a lot of them say, yeah, we're seeing agents now that love VA, which is great.
Look, I'm a data-driven guy, right? I make decisions off the data that is presented to me. And when I have realtors that push back and say, I had this loan 20 years ago and it went south.
Yep.
It took 60 days and, had a bad experience. And so, no, I'll never do another government loan again. I just say, do you know what the facts are? And just start going down the facts. And when you tell realtors things like 40% of VA loans are for first-time home buyers, 40%. They have 719 credit scores, 43% debt ratios. 16% of them are making down payments. The average loan amount's about 400 or close to 400,000. It's around 390, I think, is something like that. Those are facts. That you can't get around. We're delivering appraisals in record time frame of 7 days. Appraisal values. And that's nationally. I'm not saying that there aren't pockets, right?
Sure.
That we need to continue to work through. But from a national point of view, those are pretty important. You're also looking at, we're 5 days away from our 29th millionth loan.
Oh, wow.
Somewhere around in there, like 5 to 7 days.
29 million?
29 millionth loan.
Wow.
Right now on the books. And that's guaranteed over time since 1944. Yep. But right now we have an active portfolio of around $1.2 trillion of 3.9 million active loans. So our business is stronger than ever. It continues to grow. We still have some of the lowest default ratios in the country, and any for any loan product. Mm-hmm. And one stat that probably one of my favorite stats is 87% of the time when a veteran starts an application, they close on a loan.
That's high.
87%. There are very few. I don't even know of another loan program that's utilized out there that, one, even tracks the stat, and two, that number is that high.
No, you're absolutely right. So I'm a data nerd, right? I love data, and data actually gives you the answers to the test. And one of the things that I pound the table on is the data does not support the behavior. Like the behavior going on in certain markets, the data doesn't support the behavior. My favorite thing that VA does for all lenders is the scorecard. And one of the benefits about the scorecard that I learned a long time ago, and that I started infusing this information into the realtor training, was it gives you all the national averages, right? So back in 2016, when I first got to see my very first lender scorecard, and I saw the national stats for vets, and I think at the time in 16 it was like 706. So the FICO score has actually significantly gone up year over year over year, but it was like 706. But today, these stats, I think it was like 718, 60 something grand in assets, all this stuff. When you show that in your presentations to realtors or even mortgage professionals, and they see what the customer looks like today on an average, I'm like, listen, this is not a subprime customer. For some weird reason, people think 100% financing. People are using VA out of a necessity, not a strategy. And then it's this other customer type. When then you show them this stuff and they're like, oh my God, I had no idea. And the funny part is every lender gets a scorecard for the most part. They have the same data, and their loan officers could be out pounding the pavement, changing the narrative one market at a time if they just leveraged it.
The data,
we get the same from the Hill, right? So from up above us down, right? It's VA is one of the only self-funded programs, around. It has always been a self-funded program. Meaning, when I say self-funded, meaning that it basically pays for itself, and through the fees that it collects. But what we have seen is time, year over year over year, that number has grown to now 62% are exempt from even paying the funding fee. And so we're continuing to do more and more and more and more and more loans, and that exempt from paying the funding fees 62%. You got a very qualified buyer here that doesn't have to pay a funding fee if they're getting any disability. They're not having to pay PMI. They have the funds. I already told you 19% of the time they have the funds to put down on a loan. Not offering them a VA loan is almost just not doing your job. I mean, that's you don't give that option. Like, that is, I don't know how you how you live with yourself.
I try to educate the listing agents. I mean, the listing agents go ahead and say I have a fiduciary responsibility to the seller. 100%. It's right in your code of ethics, right? I don't think the mortgage community educates the realtor community enough on the amazing benefits to the seller that the VA benefit itself loan brings along. I mean, look, you have the reconsideration, you have Tidewater, right? We have Tidewater. We could talk about that all day long. We have the reconsideration of value. And I think the last stat, I think, John, on the last podcast, you mentioned that 54% of all ROVs had a valuation adjustment of about 5%. That's nationally. And when I do a presentation to the realtor community, I say, listen, if you have two loan programs, one, you're going to get the value and that's it. And you have a very, very, very slim chance of getting a change. I mean, there's got to be a material defect in that appraisal. for you to be able to go through an AMC and order a new one? Or do you want to have 3 bites at the apple in this program? Which one would you choose? They all raise their hand and say, I want the one with 3 opportunities to support the value. And I go, that's your VA one. So I go, you have the ROV, you have the Tidewater, you have the ability for a service member to request certain MPR waivers, depending, as long as they're not like a safety concern. I go, these are all things that protect your seller as well. So those things, I know when I do presentation with the realtor community, that's not being talked enough, because when I mention it, they're like, I never knew that. So there's some other, there's a lot more room for a deeper educational dive into the listing agent community, as well as just helping the sellers understand that you're getting a better offer.
Well, it's a mindset shift too, right? So, 100% financing preserves liquidity for the buyer, right? And
Sure.
in a competitive environment like we are at today in multiple offer markets, if I'm a buyer and I want to make sure I get this house, and regardless of what it appraises at, if I can maintain my liquidity, I'm the most competitive out of the contracts that you're getting, because I got 100% benefit, right? And I just think there's, I've done enough trainings, I've been in enough markets, I've been around the United States enough, and Rick, so have you, where, the skin in the game theory in the industry is jaded a little bit, because people, for some weird reason, feel that skin in the game equals to down payment, when skin in the game really to a seller's earnest money. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so they think 100% financing, no skin in the game, when actually that skin in the game that you're referring to has nothing to do with the seller.
No, we've had a recent contract. The individual put a $55,000 deposit down on 100% finance.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the intent. That is the protection for the seller. That is the intent of the buyer. The seriousness of their offer. And, I think that's something that I hammer all the time, Brian, is I think we've mentioned this before, but the industry has to evolve from using 2 different words, which they think mean the same thing, which is down payment and deposit. That's where the realtor community, I think, muddies the water a little bit with our sellers, as they use the same terminology, and that's got to change. And I think, it's certainly jaded. I agree 100% with what you're saying, but yeah, liquidity is what's going to save that deal. And 100% financing, when the value comes in 5 or 10 grand short, that money's not tied up in a down payment to deposit. It's 100% financing. Sure, I can make up the difference. It's a lot easier for our veterans than it is for other individuals.
Look, I'm the first one to call a spade, and there is one time where someone has to make a business decision on whether or not VA is the right product for them.
100%.
And that time is, let's say you build a home and you're building in an area that is maxed out from and you're buying a home and you want to put $50,000 worth of upgrades in said home, knowing that property is never going to value out. And now we have this escape clause that says, a veteran buyer has the opportunity to back out of that home. So at that point in time, the builder and the veteran and the realtor need to get together, make a decision. What happens if this property isn't going to value out? Because it's probably never going to value out at that point in time. It may value out 10 years from now, but it's not going to value out when you have $50,000 of upgrades and you're already overbuilt for the area. It just is what it is what it is. So you're going to either have to bring money to the table or figure out some other way to make up that difference. And so that's probably the only scenario that I can come up with where a VA loan is not a no-brainer, right? Where like it shouldn't even be part of the conversation, is why you would not offer a VA loan to a buyer. knowing that it's one of the lowest interest rates out there still, lowest cost still, and up to 100%, and yet they all have great credit score, or the average of them have great credit scores, low debt ratios, and can make a down payment.
I mean, builder, right now, because of low inventories, builders are, the top dog, creating inventory, right? And it's a mixed bag out there with builders. Some builders are, understand VA enough to where they're willing to accept contracts from VA, like with VA financing. But you still got the builders out there who, for some weird reason, are scared to death of VA financing on new construction, which I don't understand. I mean, you guys did a good job by removing the builder ID, which is probably one of the simplest processes on the planet. But for some weird reason, it was they didn't like it. But you removed that obstacle. Why? John, from your seat, what? If you were talking, there's builders out there, like, why do you think that they have such a issue with VA? I mean, what do you think? I don't know.
I think that it is the type of builder. I think it's not all builders. I think it's also market driven, where they are in the marketplace, and I think just like we did with the realtor community, peeling back the onion and really understanding the reasons why they aren't always happy, and seeing what we can change to help is what we plan to do. I am certainly not here to say that we do not need the builder community, because we know we need them. We need them. I am certainly willing to work with the builder community to improve any process that we have. It's just a matter of, tell me what we need to change, because you told me we needed to change the builder ID piece. We did that. You told me that we needed to reduce the number of days it took to get value. We did that. You told us that you needed us to come out and be more aggressive on our stance on policy, so that people understood how to do builder business. We did that. Like, continue to give me those examples so that we can improve, and we can create an environment that veterans can utilize their VA loan, use it, and still build homes.
I think there's a lot of geographic sort of differences as well. Here in New England, we don't have builders like the big builders like you would see down in the South. We don't have a lot of land, in Boston or outside Boston. We've been very lucky. Most of the I do maybe a half a dozen VA new constructions every year, not a VA one-time construction closed loan, but the builder's building the property, and it's the end loan. That most of the time, 98% of the time, the builders have been great. They sign the paperwork. They're okay with the VA builder ID. They get it. Rarely, maybe once in the last 5 years, I had a fairly newer veteran, a builder. No, I'm not going to sign the HUD forms or whatever it was. And I said, you really got to look at that with, internally. I go, that's just you stating you're doing a good job and you're being a good builder and a responsible business person, et cetera, et cetera. And it was fine. But I think, I think education is huge, but I've always had a pretty good experience with our builder community up here in New England. They've been pretty open to everything. So it's been good.
John, do you think there's an opportunity, because this will be a good segue into the Realtor Toolkit. Do you think there's an opportunity for you guys to create maybe a builder VA toolkit where it kind of,
of course,
what I mean? I think that would be, I think that'd be pretty cool because that would be something plug and play for the industry to go out, grab, and give to builders directly from VA and say, hey, it's not as scary as you think. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
You know, that would be
Hey,
awesome.
no, Brian, we want to build a lender toolkit, a builder toolkit, a veteran toolkit. You know, we started with the realtor community because we thought that that was our biggest hurdle and what veterans face when trying to get a VA loan.
Oh, I would agree 100%.
Let's talk about the toolkit, John. Let's talk about the realtor toolkit. Come on.
So hopefully you have gone to our site and you have looked at if you're a realtor out there and you have not gone to our site and looked at the VA Realtor Toolkit, that you do. It's got a lot of training. It's got a lot of information, materials. You know, we are continuing to update it, and we want feedback on the you know, how much it's useful, and we want it to be a useful place, and we want to continue to update it and not become you know, this thing that just is out there that hasn't been updated in 5 or 6 years. It's all about myth busting. So FAQs, it's got you know, all those type of things included in the Realtor Toolkit. So hopefully, if you have not gone to our website, go to our website and go to the Realtor page, and you'll see the Realtor Toolkit. Please click on it, and there's a wealth of information on there, and we'd love to hear your feedback.
What made you guys decide to go down the toolkit route? Like what was the conversation? I mean, obviously, you know, you know a lot of, you know, mortgage industry professionals and real estate professionals, but was it the constant beating of the drum that, you know, that veterans were not getting a fair shake out in the marketplace due to, you know, lack of education around the VA home loan benefit within, you know, unfortunately, we have to own some of that too, Rick, in our industry because it's the blind leading the blind. So I don't want to make this sound like I'm just throwing darts at realtors because that's not the case.
No, 100%. Yeah. It's not all that, without a doubt.
But the reality is, was that because that was kind of the closest alligator to the boat, you know? And okay.
No, I mean, that's not the only reason. The other reason is that we truly found realtors that did not know about our program. And, you know, while there is a military relocation program for realtors, it doesn't scratch the surface on veterans qualifying for this program, facts about this program, you know, vignettes about the program. We're going to put some videos on there from historical achievements, you know, and those kind of things. So I think that it was a little bit of both. You know, hearing from you know, from the lender community, actually 3 things: hearing from the lender community, hearing the lack of education that we had from a realtor standpoint, and then hearing from the veteran community about how they were never offered a VA loan to begin with, or they were actually, unfortunately, told, if you go with me as a realtor, you can't use government. So, you know, it has been, you know, the realtor plays such a significant part in the in the process, and we wanted a helpful tool for them to be able to utilize and to offer back to them for free. We're not charging for this. This is something that we hope to continue to build upon and to offer those services to them.
I mean, in their defense, to your point earlier, the only thing that's provided, the only option that they probably have is maybe in some markets there's a CE class that's provided around VA if you're lucky, but for the most part, it's the relocation professional, designation opportunity that realtors have. And to your point, VA is such a small sliver in that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we actually, the Mass Association of Realtors.
Do
It's
what?
it's a 13% sliver. So it's better than it used to be a 1% sliver, right? So while it's more popular in some areas than others, I still think that it is upon us to make sure that they're equipped as much as possible. And shame on me if I'm not giving them those opportunities when I'm out there going, why aren't you utilizing and why aren't you promoting the program and those kind of things. So it truly is how can we help you, help our veterans to make the right informed choice, in the lending experience.
We have, like in New England here, we have several states with VA continuing education courses for realtors. I actually had to help rewrite the one in Massachusetts. It was so old and it hadn't been reviewed in such a long time. And I think there's obviously areas for improvement and advancement there as well. But you don't have a lot of there's a lot of other red tape there. I guess in Massachusetts, it takes years to get a CE class approved, whereas other states, it's pretty quick. So every state's going to be different, but I certainly think that there's an area of opportunity there to rewrite the CE classes in a lot of these places, to correct them and be a little bit more advocacy for the veterans and the realtor community, because education is the tip of the spear, and when you're out there helping veterans,
Yeah, look, we can't do this on lenders alone.
Correct.
We have to have the realtor community. We have to have the builder community, and we have to have veterans that want to believe in the program. It's a community, right? And so we need to equip the community as much as we can, inform them so that they can make the best choices for them, when they go to buy a home. And I think Rick, you made the remarks earlier. Whether or not the VA loan is the best product for them at that given time, if they're not given all of the information to be able to make that informed decision, then shame on us, right? So because that's what we're here for, and I mean us as in VA.
I have the same conversation with every veteran. Here's all the loan options that you have out there. I'm going to give you insights and data points on all of them. At the end of the day, in my professional opinion, I think the VA home loan is the best option for you and the best loan in America, hands down, twice on Sunday. And I say it every time we talk, John, when VA issued temporary authority to allow the service members to pay the buyer's agent's compensation under contract, that moved it from number 2, given the DOJ lawsuit, to option in America, to number 1. So that itself, that was a cog in the wheel that I challenge anyone. Prove to me otherwise. Take cash off the table, but prove to me otherwise why there's another loan that you think is better than VA, and if we're comparing apples to apples. So I think
not all cash offers make it across the finish line.
No, negative. So, I think that's a great point too, Brian. I think that's a huge misconception. I think people like, oh yeah, it's cash offers.
Yeah.
No, it's not 100%.
No, not at all. All right, guys. So we are in the 4th quarter of this, and we need to tackle snow, service snow. So let's buckle up on this one, and let's talk the service now process. So, John, obviously the ticket process was designed to create more efficiency, quicker answers to the field, more of a streamlined approach, consistency with answers, all that good stuff. And how long has that been? How long has the snow ticket process been out, and what are some of the successes you've seen with it so far?
So about November is when we started the process. It has been extremely successful for us, and I hope and hear positive feedback, or continue to hear positive feedback from from the lending community. To give you an example, we got about 53,000 calls 52,000 calls in January. 15,000 of them, or 16,000 of them, we got snow tickets. So 52,000 calls, answered those calls within seconds, or less, like 27 seconds. We got about 16,000 volume in snow. We're able to answer those in 1.6 business days.
Wow.
Here's my plea. The plea is, we're not the same VA loan guarantee today as we were in January. We may never go back to those numbers from a resource standpoint. We're going to utilize snow to help us in ensuring that our veterans are taken care of, that our lenders are taken care of, realtors, whoever, are needing questions answered. How we're going to utilize those snow tickets is for tracking of what type of training we need to create, what type of policy still needs clarity, and what are the issues or concerns that we have out there. We can track that through snow. It is a lot harder to track that, if not impossible sometimes, to track that from a phone tree, right?
Right.
So help us help you. The system is still growing. It is still not perfect, and we still have issues that that maybe there's still some inconsistencies out there. And Brian, I think you may have a couple of examples that we certainly can walk through on what you would do next if you see things happen. But that's my plea to you on what you can do to help us is utilize those snow tickets.
Real quick before Brian, I know you got a big one. I got a quick question though for John. I know there was an update to snow. It's going to be, the lenders will have access through WebLGY now, which is a much more improved, enhanced version. But I don't think a lot of realtors and veterans know that they can actually submit a snow ticket as well too. So is that access still going to be made available to the realtor community and the service member community that they don't obviously have WebLGY access? They're still going to.
You can submit a snow ticket. We just need to know who you are, right? I mean, so it's going to ask you some questions, just like ID me type thing,
Sure.
but it should be relatively easy at this point to be able to do it. We just need to know who you are. Ask those questions and get your answers and use those ticket numbers. If you maybe don't get the answer that you're looking for, or it didn't completely answer how you or what you requested.
And that's perfect for your segue, Brian. So let's hear about your story.
All right. So here's a scenario. So you have a company that submitted 2 snow tickets at the same time regarding the same topic, asking VA to opine. And we can go down that rabbit hole here in a second. But based on a clarification clarification on a circular / guideline on NTBs. So they both submitted a snow ticket. They both got two different answers from VA via the snow process. Now, before I say what was done to clear that up, what is the process from your position on how to handle that when that happens? Because I'm sure it, not just in the case I'm talking about, I'm sure it happens because there's human beings on every side.
We're going to give you a couple options here. Option A, reject the ticket, and when you reject the ticket, put the two tickets in, which would then go back to the original responder, and say escalate case to a manager. Right, so you'll have the two tickets that have the two different things. And they'll know to escalate, or you can call, ask to be transferred to a manager, have your two tickets available at that point in time. Then they can go and they can look at the two different the two different answers and what was different about them, or I guess third option is you could open another ticket, right, with the other two tickets, and do that. So really you have three options there. All of them lead to escalation and an answer that is going to be helpful for both of us, so that we understand what the differences are in the initial response versus the original response.
Yeah.
The case response versus the new response.
The case I'm referring to, the third option was the option that was chosen, opening up a new snow ticket with the two snow tickets in question, feedback on the scenario, and then asking it to be escalated to senior management to opine on which one was right. Because, and actually in this one, it was more of a one said yes, one said no. So it was like, hey, one of these is right. We felt like we knew which one was right. However, we had that caveat happen. But to your point, John, do you see a lot of lenders submitting snow tickets to opine on the handbook guidance? Or are you guys seeing a lot of that?
I would say that we do see some, not as much as we thought we would see. A lot of it's not questioning actually the policy. It is questioning whether or not we have policy. And when we go and we look at the actual ticket itself, maybe there's a circular that was missed, or maybe there was the handbook wasn't looked at before the question was asked, right? But I'm not here to throw stones, right? I mean, that's just part of process, right? That's just part of understanding the business. And I would rather you submit a snow ticket and tell us there's an issue that you have, and us answer the issue and the veteran get in the loan, then you just say, no, can't do it. Veteran can't get in the loan, and move forward with the veteran and an inferior product.
I think, John, it's important to bring up, because you mentioned this in our pregame talk, right? This two different answer situation happens in private sector, happens in government sector, happens in families, happens, one goes to see dad, one goes to see mom, one says yes, one says no, right? This happens in the most organic level. So it's not, I want to bring that up because someone's going to be like, oh, that's typical VA. One says yes, they don't know which one. No, it happens all the time. It happens in every type of corporation and business. And, there's always going to be, no one's perfect. There's going to be a little bit of confusion. And the snow ticket has been phenomenal. I will tell you as a little tip, I've even created my own VA correspondence rule in Outlook. Every single thing that ends with va.gov, it's separated and sent into a separate folder. Every snow ticket I've ever made, every snow response I've ever gotten, everything is separate. So I can go back and quickly reference that when I'm working on a VA origination. But I wanted to bring that up because you mentioned in the beginning, which we haven't talked about yet, but that thing happens to every place. It's not just VA.
Yeah, absolutely. But I want to say something. So that folder must be very small if that's where you send all your snow tickets that you put in, John. I mean Rick,
Because I don't need to go to snow that often because I know everything.
Because you don't use the snow ticket process. We already know that.
Brian, he's the VA guy.
The VA guy. No, I do a lot of condos, and you know what? We have some questions sometimes, and I'll tell you the snow. It's funny. I answered a VA question from a mortgage professional in the state of Maine, and I said, "Did you file a snow ticket?" She had no idea what it was, and I said, "Listen, this is an opportunity of education." I go, "By the way, when you have some questions, A, B, and C, go here, do this. It's super duper uber awesome. It's going to help your business. It's going to help your service members." So there's opportunity for education every single chance.
I'll look at him. Now the student has become the teacher, John. Oh, yeah. He didn't even know what snow was 60 days ago. Now,
that is such
loan officers
that is such terrible yogurt. Not even funny. That's bad. No way. I knew what snow was.
Brian, that's just a compliment to you, sir.
Whoa. I had it. Wait a minute, Mr. Chippy. I had to kind of like talk to you about snow ticket not too long ago, didn't I?
Okay, let's move on. All right. So there's one last thing I want to cover. We got a couple minutes left. Because you brought it up when we were talking about the snow process and the snow ticket and then underwriting, etc. One thing I've noticed is that I don't think people understand the relationship of a circular and the handbook. Okay. And what I mean by that, and Rick, you and I have talked about this a lot, that you have the handbook and people go to the handbook and they look at the handbook, not understanding that there's a circular out there that delivers guidance or brings up a law or whatever. And I don't think people understand the relationship between the two.
That's a good point because I don't think a lot of the loan originators or maybe cap markets, a secondary or credit risk, or there's dates in the handbook in chapter 4 for a reason, when it was last updated, and then the circular list is listed for a reason in the way that it's listed. And I try to reference the circulars first related to the question and policy that I have, and then if I have a question, I do a snow ticket. But yeah, John, what's your thoughts on that?
You've got access to 3 different places that you can get answers, and that's going to continue to improve, right? We now have AI capability in-house. We're testing things out. We're going to eventually, get better at putting our policy out and giving you opportunities to be able to have one place to go. Right now, I don't have one place to go because I wasn't allowed to do that. But you can go to the same place, the lender landing page, and I would check 3 things. I would check handbook, I would check circular, and what the circular is it is basically a holding spot until we can get it into the policy, into the manual. That's really the only difference. And so it's a temporary measure until we can so it's one of 2 things. We're testing something out, and whether or not we put it in the handbook or not depends upon that's why we have rescissions on those circulars. We'll test it out. If it works, great. We'll put that in the handbook. And then it'll be, to Brian, to your point, you'll see the date that it was updated in the handbook. So you've got circular, you got handbook, and the other place that I would check would be the regional variance page, because the regional variance page has different information for like termite, condos, HOA, those regional items that may affect your transaction, I'd go to those 3 places. All of them can be accessed from the lender's landing page.
State deviation page is a big piece. I don't think enough people talk about it, but I know that that really helped out us in Massachusetts, being an attorney state. And I helped. I think it was Mark Jameson way back when we had some issues with the attorney fees, and I noticed that title companies and attorneys were calling them something else. I said, you can't call that. That's an attorney fee. We're an attorney state, and they would change. Some of the attorneys were changing the name to a title because of the 1% and fees, etc. And I said, no, it's an attorney fee. And I know I mentioned that to the LPO at the time, Mr. Jameson, and lo and behold, I think 2 months later or something, there was an addition to an attorney fee and for the state deviation page for Massachusetts. So, which was a huge help. And I don't think enough loan originators know about that page or look at that page or review that page. So it's a great piece.
And from when Mr. Jameson was here, we have that thing has gone on steroids. So we certainly, it is certainly not just improved, but it has a lot more information than it ever has. So I checked those 3 things, Brian. You know, and all accessed from the lender landing page.
Well, gents, this has been another fantastic all gas, no brakes episode, and I appreciate everybody's time today.
I don't believe in brakes.
We know we've seen pictures, but thanks for watching. This has been another great episode of Homeownership Heroes. I'm Brian Burjans,
and I'm Rick Betancourt,
and John,
and I'm John Bell,
and we'll see you next time. All right, boys. That's
all
it.
Right, man. Good. Sounded okay.
Another successful. That was great. That did it. Awesome.
So
next we'll bring WWE fighting into it. All right.
Yes. We'll see you later.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Later, brother.
I think let me see, I'm gonna hit this button right here. I think hold on a second. Let me see something.